Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week, although we have just got plates on the Alfarrari, it doesn't mean that it's actually finished. It means that a new phase has actually just started. Alright guys, welcome back, and those of you who have been following know that this is the Alfarrari. This is my 1973 Alfa Romeo GTV 2-litre that is no longer a 2-litre, is now a 3.6-litre V8 out of a Ferrari 360. If you missed the last episode, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up, and like always, do the things like subscribe and comment. It all helps out that crazy algorithm. So where we left off with the Alfarrari, we finally got plates. We had plates, so that means it's done, right? No. One of the things with doing an engine conversion like this is, or not just an engine conversion, but really building this car up from scratch means that there is so many things that I've done that work in theory or in just moving it around, but in practice, there is lots of shaking down to be done. So there's lots of little things that I now go, oh, well, that doesn't work as well as I'd hope it would. And this is the time to find that, is to actually start getting it out on the road and really driving it. Besides just moving it around, actually get to sort out the tune and just find a bunch of the little things that aren't working quite the way they're supposed to. And there are lots of those little things because it is a ground-up build. It's not just an engine conversion, it's a steering conversion and gearbox and everything is different. Every single thing is different. So when you build a car like this, even the OEM manufacturers will build prototypes and work on them and do all sorts of testing on them to see how they react in the real world and how things actually work. Because on paper it might be one thing, but in reality is another. But first thing this week, last time I left you, I mentioned that I was having battery issues, and I've done a bit of testing. I've checked for parasitic draw and stuff. Can't really see anything. I think the battery's just died. It might actually have something to do with my battery charger that I've been putting it on quite a bit, because this battery was new for this car. I mean, it's been sitting around for a couple of years probably, but it should have been in good condition. It shouldn't have been a problem, but it's died, so I've got a new battery. So let's first replace that battery, and then we can potentially get this out on the road and see what it's like. So removing the battery is not too difficult. Out with the old, in with the new one, and just change over the terminals. Now, you shouldn't drill into things while you're holding them in your hand, but I'm just opening out the existing holes with a step drill bit so I can insulate the battery cutoff mount. Alright, so I've mounted my new battery into the original spot, and I thought with my battery cutoff, it was this is a sheet steel plate that was screwed into the body of the car. So this is effectively a negatively charged backing plate that the switch mounts on. Now, nothing touches, it was all isolated, but I decided to actually put a piece of rubber on the top and some rubber grommets into these holes so that this will now be completely isolated from the body of the car and will not be negatively charged. So there's no chance of any shorting out or anything like that. I don't think there was, but I've just taken this extra precaution now to sort of isolate this. So let's connect this all back up again and see if the car will start. So some people expressed concern last week about these aluminium panels rattling, and with all the leather and stuff on the front, they are nicely sound deadened and they don't move and they don't rattle. Okay, so battery's replaced, and now it's time to take the car out on the road and do a bit of a shakedown and see how she's performing. All right, so we're driving the Alfarrari. I'm taking a log on the laptop. Now that is one of my little things, is for some reason the gear stick, when I'm cruising lightly and sort of back on and off a few times, it likes to jump out of gear. It doesn't, under low, no problems. But when it's sort of light load, and particularly when I back off, I can sort of see the gear stick moving, and it moves a couple of times and then it jumps out of gear. You can also hear there's a whole lot of of vibrations in the dash. A lot of that could be that it's just not held in securely, and I need to jump onto that ASAP because it's really annoying. As far as the car driving, steering's a little bit odd with the electric power steering. It's not, it almost feels like there's a slight delay, maybe because it has such a high level of power steering at the moment. But I can turn that down, and maybe that will be better if I run a little bit less. It's also with me having an offset steering wheel, so I have an offset steering wheel hub, which I have in my 911. It feels fine in my 911. It just feels a little bit more odd in this, but I really needed to do it because of how I had to place the steering column and be able to see the gauges with the steering wheel and all the rest of it. I think, to be honest, I probably want to get a slightly larger steering wheel. I think that would feel a little bit better in this situation. Other ergonomic things, the gear stick is just that little bit too much of a reach. I thought it would be much nicer if it was back just a little bit further. So a few little things to touch up, but let's see if we can get some clear road and open it up a little bit and feel it out. Of course, as soon as I get above 3,000 RPM, the vibrations stop and it's good. But under 3, it's a bit buzzy. So good to have it out on the road though. This is my first proper drive, fully registered, legal, road driven, and it's so great. A car that I built for 5 years has finally, hit the road, and I can just jump in and drive it when I like. Okay, it's 60 days a year with this logbook, but the logbook system, 60 days a year is more than once a week, and it's really not an imposition for a car that it's not a daily driver. As much as I've tried to make it that, I'm not going to use it as that. So as I said, 60 days a year, please. I don't even know what that revved to. I don't think it was redline, but wow. Holy. That was good. Okay, I think I'm getting a little bit of my safety coming in there. I know that when we did the tune, we did the flat out tune, but the light throttle at high revs has not been tuned yet, so that's something we're going to have to play around with. But when I put my foot in it, wow. There's plenty of go in this little car, I tell you. Like that, so I'm going to have to look at the logs and and take it easy. It is saving me from something, so let's not kill it before we really get to enjoy it. I might also stiffen the shocks up a little bit. It feels a bit soft. Yeah, it definitely does not have the handling that I'd like. I'm definitely rolling a lot more than I'm comfortable with, so something else we can just tweak. Oh, it just wants to go. Oh, I've got to get this tune sorted because it so wants to eat. Let it eat. So I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to head back, I'm going to check the logs, tweak the tune, and we'll see if we can go out again. All right, so the first proper test drives under my belt now, and it's time to start getting into the nitty gritty. So yes, it is registered and running, but there's still a bunch of little things that I want to fix, and I'm making a list of all these little tweaks. So instead of it just being a car that drives, it does what it needs to do, it goes down the road, but there's lots of things that could be better, and that's what the shakedown is all about. It's fun. And those couple of little rips that I took it on, and I was like, oh wow, and I look back at the logs, and I only got to about just over 7,000 RPM. I still got 2,000 RPM to go. Wow, it's way faster than Harry, my 911. It is plenty fast enough, and yeah, it is. It's going to be a handful. But there's a bunch of things that I want to tweak, so let's start delving into them right now.
So I start with little jobs like straightening the steering wheel. Then I get under and adjust all the suspension to full hard. I think I'll give that a go and see how that works. And now I'm tackling the leak from the gearbox, and it ended up being a sensor fitting on the top of the gearbox, of course, which was really difficult to get into with any tools, and I ended up cutting a spanner in half to do the job. Many of you know this is what you need to do sometimes to get the job done, and you need to modify tools. Then I just checked that the oil in the gearbox was topped off, and it was fine. It had leaked almost nothing. And that's another job marked off the list.
So this nub here is completely worn down, and it's actually ruined the inside of my door handle. Now I did try and drill it and put a little spline on here, but it's pulling out, and it's not designed to do that. It's just designed to have this one little grub screw that locks it into the groove to stop it from popping out. But the only thing stopping it from spinning on this spline is the teeth inside, which have now been killed by the fact that these teeth are worn out. It's killed the teeth on the inside of this handle, and that hasn't really done anything good. So I got these other handles. These are the original 2-litre handles, which I don't like as much, but I'm going to put it on for temporarily. I end up taking a cap head bolt, I put it in the drill and sharpened the point of it so that will stick into that groove. So now I'm going to use this one for the time being, so at least I can get out of the car without winding the window down and reaching for the outside handle. So moving forward, you saw me, I pulled the dash out of the car because there's lots of rattles and things like that, and a lot of it is because it's not bolted in properly because I hadn't finished things under the dash. One of the big things I hadn't finished is I don't actually have any vent fans connected up at the moment. So the air conditioning is not plumbed in. It's the main components are in the car, but I haven't actually connected up the hoses and all that sort of stuff. And this is the outlet for the cooling fan. So this does the air conditioning. I've actually got 2 fans in the car. If you follow it, you may remember I've got a heater box which works, and that's all in and that's going. But this is for the vents coming to your face, and it's not connected. So the reason why I haven't connected it is because when I put everything in the car, I thought I could run these pipes sort of around the back of the steering column and things like that, and now it's full of wiring. There's no getting anything through there. Same on the other side. Once the heater pipes and everything are in, it's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these outlets off. This basically caps onto the front of the air conditioning box like this. The air is supposed to come in and come around and come back out these sides. I'm going to now make them come out the top. So we need to cut these off, cap the ends, and put new outlets on the top on either side, and then we can chuck it back in the car, and hopefully that will be another job marked off the list.
So I start by making my new vertical ducts with just some straight bits of aluminium tube and gradually cut it until I get a shape that sits over the existing ducting nicely. Clean it all up, and then I can tack it on and then weld it solid. Then it's the same again on the other side. It takes a lot of fiddling to get this right and get the shape in the right spot. A lot of cleaning up, and my aluminium welding is definitely not crash hot, but I can stick 2 bits of aluminium together, and that's about all you need for this particular application. Then I cut off the old ducts and make up some caps to cover over the existing holes. And you see I'm using my third hand to hold it in place. It's quite a handy little piece of gear that's very simple to make.
After a bit of paint and letting it set overnight, and I have my duct, I suppose you would call it, for the front of the air conditioning unit. So now instead of the tubes coming off the back, they now come off the top, so that I should be able to get it in the car now and actually duct it to the vents and get around the stuff that I've got in there. And of course, I didn't line everything up and try it, and it doesn't fit. So I need to actually alter the driver's side outlet of this this total fitting. I'm rethinking the whole thing. So let's see if I can remake this so it actually fits in the car.
So if it's worth doing twice, or maybe just measure twice, cut once. One of these sayings would probably get me out of a lot of extra work I like to find myself doing.
That has been no time at all for you guys, but that's been a lot of time, basically the entire day I've spent in here now, rewiring things. So now I have my stereo is all wired in. That wasn't done before. I have now wired into the Link ECU. I've wired up my original oil light, is now a check engine light. So there's just lots of little things that I wanted to button up while I had the dash out. Let's get into it and get it sort of neat and tidy and sorted out. Now it's time to wrap up some of this mess of wiring that I've been tweaking and adding to over a lot of time, and then we'll put the dash back in again, and fingers crossed everything goes in and I can get rid of a bunch of these rattles that were in behind the dash before. So let's make everything nice and solid.
So a bit more wiring, tidying everything up, and then I start to bolt it all back into place. Thankfully this time the ducting actually fits where it's supposed to, and I need to run all of the tubing and mount up the dash nice and solid, firmly bolting everything in so that I can try and cut down on some of these rattles.
Alright, so it's been still likes jumping out of gear. Okay, so the dash is definitely not vibrating anywhere near as much as it did. Now it's nice and solid. That is a big improvement. I've improved a bunch of bits and pieces. There are things that are working now that are better. Initial thoughts, it still vibrates a lot. I definitely need to do something about those engine mounts. It's a very buzzy car. It's still jumping out of gear. I do not know why it is still jumping out of gear. It does need some tuning. There's lots of the low-level sort of driving stuff. So things like, well, when it's jumping out of gear, but it seems to drop revs down sort of really low. So if I'm crawling along in traffic, it seems to drop revs too far. So that's a little thing that it needs to be tweaked. It's probably not a big thing. Otherwise, it's actually coming together quite nicely. Like anything, there's gonna be some teething problems. I had it in the rain the other day. The wipers work. My fan now, I hope, works. Yep, fans are working. So, you know, we've got some of the things organised. So it's just time to take it out and give it a little bit of a rip and see what it's really like. got some spice. It has got some spice. Woo! Doesn't sound like a Ferrari, but it sounds good. Holy moly! Wow! I'm a fan. Woo! Holy tooly! Nicer when you're moving. This is not a car for bumper to bumper traffic, but oh, it just goes. It is pulling very slightly to the left under braking. I have bled the brakes since the brake test, and maybe there's something in that right caliper, but the brakes are working. The brakes are feeling really good. So it goes, it stops. I haven't been willing to push any of the handling much yet because I'm still not ready for it. Like, but it's got plenty of go. Well, it drives. It does what it's supposed to do. There are lots of things that I still need to tweak on this car that I'm not quite happy with yet. It is definitely much better when I'm at speed than when I'm not. It's just, yeah, like it's not good for putting around and idling and cruising around town. But when you're on it, holy moly, is it fun. After stiffening up the shocks, much better. The handling wise is much better. The steering is problematic. I have noticed a couple of times, particularly at low revs, but I think that the power steering is cutting out maybe, or stopping for a second, and I think that has to be there's not sufficient power going to the electric power steering module. it's usually only for a second. Usually when I'm idling and I'm just sort of like stopped and then it sort of goes again, which is definitely disconcerting and definitely something I'm going to fix. But when I'm on it, it's perfect. It's never had a problem while I'm into it. It's only when I'm sort of stopped and reversing often is the time when it seems to be an issue. The indicators are horrible. I'm using the factory indicators and they kick on when I don't want them to, but then never self-cancel. So I've got to do something about that. I'm not happy with their responsiveness. So that's definitely something to work on. Vibration, it's much better in the cabin now that I've bolted everything down, but it still vibrates a lot. I do have a plan to have a look at the vibration, and while I'm at it, I'm going to do something, hopefully, start working on something about the sound of this car. The main issue with this car, it sounds great when you're on it, but it doesn't sound like a Ferrari, and I really want it to sound like a Ferrari, and I think that's because I don't have equal length headers in the car, and I've had a look at it, I've gone back over the video multiple times, and there's just no room to make conventional headers to fit into that space and be equal length. But I have a theory that might work. My theory is if I can scan the engine and the engine bay separately and work out the space I have, I can potentially make some design in CAD, some headers that can then be 3D printed. And that is my ultimate goal. I'm in discussions with some companies at the moment to see what I can do about that. So stay tuned for that. But everything else, it works. It is a real car doing real car things. I took it to the groceries the other day, and it works. It's going to be an evolution as we go through. There's going to be things that I'm going to fix. The exhaust is too loose. I didn't really think about it when I made it, but all the hangers just hang straight down. So the exhaust can swing from side to side and it sort of swings around. I need to sort of have some hangers that are under tension so that it holds it sort of much more firmly. At the moment, it can sort of swing around, and that's no good. So more to come. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed hearing me get out and get on it. Hopefully the footage is reasonable that I got. I really hate GoPros, they always seem to fall out. But that is all the time I got this week. So I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in May of this year, Ferrari announced a successor to the 812 Superfast with the 12-cylinder. Now this car was designed to embrace Ferrari's history with inspiration from the Daytona. The engine is a 6.5 litre V12 without the assistance of an electric motor or forced induction. Just a naturally aspirated V12 that revs to 9,500 RPM and makes 820 horsepower, which is an impressive 126 horsepower per litre. It is front mid-engined with the engine sitting behind the front wheels, giving it a 48-52 front to rear weight balance. The 12-cylinder also has active aero flaps on its rear haunches, which can generate 50 kilos of downforce at 155 miles per hour, which gives it stability in fast corners. The first cars are just starting to get delivered, so you may see them on the road soon.
All right, so the Alfarrari is running. It is actually doing Alfarrari things. It's on the road. It's a real car. There is still some things to tweak, but there'll be more of that to come, and I'll keep you in the loop. I definitely need to do something about those engine vibrations. That's really, really annoying, and there's other bits and pieces that we will tackle. I'm also very much looking forward to getting back onto Frank, so there's definitely going to be an episode on Frank coming next week, so keep an eye out for that. And
then just as usual, if you're enjoying the videos, let Jeff know, subscribe, like, and of course Patreon.
Yes.
Always appreciative and helps them out, and see the videos daily with no ads.
All right, guys.
Whew. All right.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
The engine is a 6.5 litre V12 without the assistance of electric induction or assisted motors. Damn it. And makes 820 horsepower, which is an impressive 126 horsepower per minute. Second.
Litre.
Damn it. Just a naturally aspirated V12 engine that makes 9,500 revs per minute.
No.
It is front mid-engined with the wheels. The 12-cylindry also has active rear haunch flaps. Active aero flaps on its haunches. The 12-cylindry also has active aero flaps. The first cars are just